Perfect. The surprising superpower that enabled this executive director to lead through major changes. So today, Joanne Richard, executive director at the Moncton Lions Club, is joining me to share a very relevant experience of leading through change and the surprising superpowers that she's found that has allowed her to do that effectively. So also joining me today is Kelsey Ann. So if you have been following me, you know that Kelsey Ann is part of my team. Kelsey Ann is the master behind these lives, setting up all of these opportunities for us to get together and explore very relevant leadership topics. So we do this every week. And so in the next hour, you can expect to get some wonderful information, explore some topics that may not be new to you, but we're going to explore it from a different perspective. And you're going to walk away with some things that you can implement today in your leadership practice. My name's Melissa. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. And what I do every day is I work with great leaders such as Joanne here, and I help them build up their influence, create wonderful teams, and lead through challenges, changes, whatever it is, with more ease. And Joanne, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me, Melissa.
It takes a lot, some times, of guts and what's the word that I'm looking for? Courage to show up and do these lives, to not know who might be watching, but knowing that whoever is watching are the people who will that we are going to serve today, that they're going to be able to learn, take something away from this, and make something happen. Because here's what I know about the leaders I work with. They are go-getters, they are doers, they are people who take it all in and make, I can give seeds and they plant a garden. And they reap the fruit and the everything that blossoms from it. So Joanne, tell me about you. Can you tell me about what you do and why you're passionate about what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm the executive director for the Moncton Lions Community Center here in Moncton. The 50 plus seniors program is what I manage, 11 employees altogether. And I have over 300 members right now that I also mentor, coach, counsel, in any way that a senior would need somebody to help them, basically is what I do. I've been working with seniors, for seniors, for over 10 years now, and I just love that population. Just truly enjoy working with them. Working at the Moncton Lions Community Center has had its challenges since I started, but I love working here. I love what I do, the program development, the education, and everything. It's just really nice.
Yeah. So Joanne, before we started working together, if we can rewind back in time, can you tell us a little bit about where you were, what maybe the struggles were as a leader, and what was going on?
So before we met as a leader, I always did my job well, always, try to exceed expectations. But I think it's not until you're faced with a major challenge that you, as a leader, will feel the struggles. If it's happy sailing all the time, what you're doing works, you're like, okay, this is good, I'm going to keep on doing this. But then when a challenge hits and you're like, oh my God, it stops you in your track, you can't breathe, you're not sure of yourself. Those are all the feelings that I had, not sure of myself, not confident. And what was the catalyst is in November of last year, we were located on St. George, and the city of Moncton asked us to move in a 2-week period. I had to rehome 72 programs, plus move my own program and members, because our building was going to be used as a homeless shelter for the winter. So when that happened, I was like, okay, as a leader, I have to show my team that I'm in control, that I've got this, but I'm still going through some emotions.
Right.
You know? So when all of that happened, you know, even though I knew that, I did not know how to do it. I did not know how to show my team that I was in control for that situation. And I knew what to do because I did not know what the future held, where we were going to be, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
And,
then
that's, major changes. It's not just
major
like,
changes.
we're implementing a new operating system. This is like the whole business is being uprooted. Everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, because in doing that move, those 72 different rentals that I had to move was our only source of income. So not only did we have to rehome all of these programs and move, I was losing my only source of income for the program. So there was a lot of things coming back at me, and for that, me as a leader, I had to come back and show that I was strong, I was sure, I knew where we were going, I knew what the next steps were. But in that 2-week period, I did not know, like when it first hit, you know?
And I really like what you're highlighting there. You knew, I have to show up in these ways, or I have to do these things, but the knowing what you need to be doing and knowing how to do it, 2 different things.
2 very different
And,
things.
that's some of the things that I encounter. I would say some of the time, most of the time, all of the time, really, is I'm working with leaders who know they have been introduced to the concepts. It's not new to them, but it's the application of that concept, or the application of that theory, about how do you live that in the real world when you sit down with a person, or when you stand in front of your team. What do you do? What do you say? How do you embody that? How do you demonstrate that? And how do I reconcile all of the feelings that I'm feeling with how I need to show up?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so there was a knowing of, here I am, things are changing, I need to show up this way, I don't really know, I'm not necessarily feeling confident in this moment. You were considering working with me. What was maybe holding you back?
Not knowing, is this program going to work? Is Melissa really going to be able to do her magic like she says and really help me? I've done this program before. Look where I am today. Or I've done this. You know, there's always you're questioning yourself. It's the what if, you know? Is that person really going to be able to come through and help me as a leader find my own tools? I don't expect anybody to come in and give me any tools and show me the way, you know? It's learning from someone and reaching and taking the tools that you need in order to better yourself as a leader.
Yeah. And that's, often I ask this question, it seems like an odd question, but there's usually something that holds us back. And if we are not where we want to be, there's something getting in the way. So at what point did you say yes? What was the deciding factor to say, yes, I'm doing this, I'm moving forward?
Well, first of all, I did my research. So I totally broke you apart and your business apart and looked to make sure that it was what I wanted. because it is a good chunk of money, and I wanted to make sure that my board were going to say yes, but I knew they were going to ask me questions. So I had to envision the questions and go look for the answers so that when I presented it, it would be approved. And what made me decide was, one, the testimonials that you have, people that I knew that already worked with you, asking them questions, and then just as a leader saying, okay, I'm just jumping in, I'm doing it,
Yeah. And
getting
people
over that fear.
ask me for testimonials. I have so many testimonials, so many examples of people that I've worked with. And sometimes I don't know if we're doing a good job of showcasing that, because I think there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't necessarily share. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to do a better job of that, because it does help to know how people are experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you made the step, you dissected, you looked at the testimonials, you talked to people, you said, yep, she's the real deal. She is what she says she is. And you joined the Executive Edge. So that is my 8-week leadership development program. And through those 8 weeks, you experienced a shift.
I did.
So what was that shift, and how did you live that shift?
For me, it happened rather quickly. Within I think at the third session, even the second one, I started feeling things. I have to say that if you don't put in the work, you're not going to get the anticipated results. So if you're going to take a course with Melissa, such as I did the 8-week Executive Edge, you have to engage and you have to do the homework. And if you're going to miss a session, ask questions, listen to, and I did all of that. I literally ate up everything that you gave me, even when we had one-on-ones and you'd suggest something, even if I wasn't sure, I still went and I did it. And that's why I say I'm going to say the third session is when I realized that I was more than what I was giving myself credit for. I was a much stronger leader than what I thought, and I discovered that it's okay for me to be an authentic leader, to show who I am to my team and my members, because they need to know that she's not just the boss, she's a human being behind that title.
Yeah. And how did your staff react to that?
At first, one of them came to me and said, what's going on with you? You're changing. I'm like, what do you mean I'm changing? He said, well, just the way you talk, the way you present yourself. After the first few sessions, even my staff noticed, and that piqued curiosity. So I started sharing what I was learning from the Executive Edge program with my team. So once a week, we'd have a team huddle and we'd have a discussion around so I was basically taking your coaching and bringing it into the business and coaching my team, which just made my learning experience even stronger.
Absolutely.
So as I was growing as a leader, my team was growing alongside of me.
And so how did that translate to leading through change? Because it's one thing to say, okay, I'll be more human, I'll be more authentic, but how did that practically, what changed in the way you were approaching change?
Well, it helped me through that major change that we were going through as a team. It enabled me to show myself as a human being, but also as a leader, and instill some positivity within my team and the members and even the community, because at one point it wasn't just my staff and the members of my program. I had seniors from the community that were reaching out, you know, so that helped me to be able to speak to them in a manner to say, okay, this is what I know, this is what we're doing, this is the next step. I'm not sure how to get there yet, but guess what? We're going to get there.
Yeah. And so people were having lots of emotions. And
Lots
that's,
of
I
emotion.
think that's a surprising thing about change. You're like, okay, I'm going to make a plan. We're going to execute this. And what you don't anticipate are all of the feelings that come, the emotion
Exactly.
of change.
Exactly.
And so we say, oh, it's resistance. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's resistance because the resistance is the behavior, resisting.
Mhm.
And there's emotions behind that resistance.
Mhm. And a lot of times I think is that a person will feel something, but does not know how to give it a name to that emotion or what you're feeling. Or the person that you are speaking to or is seeing you going through that emotion does not understand that emotion. So they themselves do not know how to put a name to it. You know, so it's a two-way communication is so big. Communication's always been a topic for me that it's so big. It envelops so many things, you know, body language, facial language, empathy, like so many things.
Yeah. So I want to go to Kelsey Ann here. I've been seeing her on the screen. She's been nodding along. There's things that's resonating for you, Kelsey Ann. I'm wondering if there's anything you want to offer at this point in the conversation, maybe observations or things that you've noticed.
Sorry, I've just been like taking it all in. It's been so so great to get to know you, Joanne, through the
Thank you.
program and to see you grow as a leader and to see and hear the results and to, see those ripples in the community because I live in this community as well. And that change that you were going through in your workplace affected the larger community and those ripples affected out. So you, handling it appropriately and really diving deep, using the executive edge to really kind of get on top of leading through change, through that major change, really had those ripple effects throughout into the community as well. So thank you very much for, you know, kind of, I guess, not digging your heels in, but just taking the opportunity to go deeper within yourself to be like, okay, this is the right step. And I think, you're very happy that you've made that commitment because now those ripples are out there and into your staff members too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So going back, Joanne, the last thing you mentioned was communication, and you threw in the word empathy. That's a big, scary word for a lot of people.
It's a big, scary word.
It's a big, scary word. And it's interesting because we're almost at a point in our society that we know empathy is important, but we don't really know what it looks like. And we don't really believe, because it's kind of muddled in with like this concept of being nice or being friendly, potentially getting walked over. It's also the fact that we've been nice before and that hasn't worked for us. So it's backfired, or people took advantage, or it wasn't effective. And so there's a lot of feelings, there's a lot of thoughts, there's even a lot of misconceptions around empathy.
Absolutely.
And yet for you, empathy was a game changer.
Yes.
So let's talk about empathy. If I
Sure.
think this is kind of like where we're going here. And I
Yeah.
would really, we've had lots of conversations about empathy. So I'd really love to let people in on that conversation.
Sure.
So first thoughts that come to mind for you, Joanne, when you think about empathy and what you discovered about empathy and the superpower of empathy.
Mhm. So even before the Executive Edge program, I always found myself as being a very empathetic person and always been told I was very empathetic in the way that I speak with people, counsel people, coach people, just helping, people around me, whether it's professional or personal. And then I'm always told, you're too nice. You get hurt all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So empathy is a big word, you know what it means, you know what it is. It's being true to yourself, be true to others, let your feelings go through and there's different ways of doing it, but it's allowing yourself to do it, but knowing how to do it in the right way so that you don't get hurt, you know? So, the listening without interrupting, all those good things that go with being empathetic. So in learning some of the tools that you were teaching in the Executive Edge, I was able to take my empathy level, which I think was already, not I think, I know it was already quite high.
Yeah.
I think that with your program, I just blew it out of the roof. Like it just, it went way, way more than what I ever imagined I could have. To the point where I was teaching it with my team, even teaching it on a personal level with my grandkids and my children, and because they were going through some stuff, because as a leader, we don't have only have challenges at work. Sometimes we have, most of the time, especially nowadays, we have challenges at home as well. So the Executive Edge, was not only beneficial on the professional side, but on the personal side as well.
Yeah. Because communication affects all relationships.
Absolutely.
And this is about relationships.
Mhm.
So, Kelsey Ann, you've also been doing a lot of discovery around empathy. So, what are some of the learnings that you've taken away?
I think the biggest learning that I've taken away about empathy is it's not the doing is probably the hardest part.
Mhm.
And the doing isn't hard, but it is hard. And holding space for somebody to
Mhm.
just, feel and emote and be,
Mhm.
not trying to fix, not trying to solve, not trying to do anything, but be there for them is probably one of the biggest pieces that has kind of it's definitely shone a light, and I can see Joanne nodding her head.
Yeah.
I'm a helper. Joanne's a helper. There's so many helpers that we want to be those people. We're solutioners. We have those solutions.
Mhm.
So to take that back seat and realize that the person who is feeling might not be ready for those solutions right now. Right? They haven't asked for them. And so there's so many empathy. I always flash back to the slide of what empathy is and what it's
Mhm.
not, Melissa, the one that you share. And it's always, when I read the list of everything that it's not, it's still like, oh, right. Okay. So what is empathy then? Because empathy isn't solving or fixing
Mhm.
or, all of those things. Empathy is really just about holding space.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'd like to highlight from what both of you shared is boundaries.
Mhm.
Right? Empathy is holding space, but it's not saving. It's listening, but it's not interfering.
Mhm.
It's and I almost see it, if I can give you kind of an analogy, analogy here to think about it, I see it as people are in the driver's seat. You know, the car is their life with what they're doing, how they're behaving. They're in the driver's seat. And when we start solutioning, interfering, giving advice, all of these things, we essentially take them out of the driver's seat and we place ourselves there. And then we look back and we say, well, why aren't they doing the things? Why are they not following through?
Mhm.
Well, we took them out of the driver's seat. And some people are very happy to hand over the steering wheel and say, thank God, get in the driver's seat, drive this car for me. And then you get stuck driving for other people. Or they completely reject and they're like, get out of my car, and everything that you told me to do, I will not listen to because you told me to do it.
Exactly.
They shut down and they don't. So solutioning and interfering and all of these things just really don't work in our favor. So when we talk about empowering others, giving them the space to take responsibility, or we want them to take responsibility, we need to give them the space. And the empathy piece helps us tap into what is going on without taking away their space, if we're doing it in a healthy way. And Joanne, you started with a lot of empathy, and that's, you know, a big part of that shift there that you went through, is now you're using all of the beautiful empathy you have and you're empowering others.
Exactly.
And so one of the beautiful things about empathy, going back to change, we started this conversation talking about change, and we touched on the emotions of change. There are a lot of emotions that come up when we're leading through change. And empathy is how we pick up on the emotional data. If you want to know why there's resistance, you need to understand the emotional data, what's happening under the surface. And that's what empathy does. So Joanne, you're nodding. How does that translate for you in your experience, what I'm sharing here?
It's huge for me because, like I said at the beginning, I've always been a very empathetic person, but with the executive edge, I was able to come and do a cleanup in my empathy bucket, in the sense where that list of things that we're not to do as an empathetic person. We don't tell someone what to do. We don't do it for them. Learn how to take those. And it's hard when you're the empathetic person that does everything for everyone. It's hard to do that, but you have to take it. What I did for myself was like, hey, okay, I know I got to get these out of my bucket, but this is self-care. Self-care. If I don't do this and I keep on doing everything like I used to, if I don't do my cleanup, I'm going to burn out, especially now in the situation that we're still living here at the center. You know, it's okay to show my emotion, to show that I'm afraid or I'm not happy with something or whatnot, and be empathetic, but it's coaching my team. I don't tell them what to do. I am coaching them, you know, with communication words, but coaching them, yes, with how I react to things and how I move forward. And that's what a leader does. When you are being an authentic leader and you deal with empathy, your team will follow you. They'll believe in you.
So I think the two things that I've observed with you, Joanne, as an outcome of that shift is a lot less weight on your shoulders. If I look at you from the starting to work with you to the end, you were a lot lighter, and the confidence,
Major
just
change.
that solid foundation and that confidence.
Absolutely.
That even the confidence in playing in the unknown. And often leading through change means getting comfortable with the unknown and helping others get comfortable with the unknown as well.
Yeah. But once you start getting feedback that what you're doing is working, it's like, you can pat yourself on the shoulders. And I've been doing it, and I'm not afraid to say it. I've been patting myself on the shoulders, when I have my staff coming and saying, "You're the best boss I've ever had. I love working with you. I love coming in the morning working with you." To me, that speaks so loudly to me. To have board members come to me and say, "Thank you for what you've been doing for the past year. I don't think the center would have been able to survive without you." To have members come to me and say, "I don't know how you did it through everything we've been through, but I'm glad it was you that was here."
Yeah.
To me, that told I already knew I was doing a good job, but that just emphasized everything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And getting that feedback. Wow.
Absolutely. It's important. It's just as important for us as leaders to receive it as it is for us as leaders to give it. That's another case. You have to give feedback, even if it's negative. It's all in the way that you deliver and the words that you choose, and how much empathy you're going to put in your message in order to show them, yes, this is what's going on, but let's work together to change this.
Yeah. And here's, you'd hit it on the head here with when you have high empathy, giving direct feedback can, even if it's hard feedback, can be really, really kind. But if you take away the empathy and now you're trying to give that direct feedback, you're the bad guy. You don't have to be the bad guy. And being empathetic doesn't mean you're not challenging directly or giving the hard feedback. What we really need, and we've been kind of, sold this idea that you either are, an empathy, ooey gooey, mushy, walk all over me kind of person, or you're this hard ass, tell it like it is, and be one or the other, and neither one feels good. You're like, well, I can't really function and be effective if I'm being walked all over. And if I'm being, this hard ass bad guy, who's going to work with me in the long term? So like neither solution is effective or what we want. And yet we struggle with this. Well, I have to be this or that. And what I say is, okay, shed that. And we are building a practice of having lots of empathy.
Yeah.
And building the relationship so that challenging directly is no longer being the bad guy. It's part of good communication, creating feedback loop, learning, improving. But you can only do this piece really well if you have the empathy. So I think that brings up the question of, what if you don't have empathy? What if this is something that is not your strong suit or you struggle with? What do you think?
I feel that everybody can learn how to be empathetic if you are given the right tools. And if I would have been a person that was not empathetic, with what you taught in the Executive Edge, I would have learned how to implement some empathetic tools into my leadership.
Yeah.
And that's what your program does.
Kelsey Ann, what do you think about, people who might be struggling with empathy? What are some things that you've observed?
I guess what I've observed is you don't realize when done effectively how effective it is, and how when you do have those boundaries in place, it's not something that is draining. Because I do consider myself, Joanne, an empathetic person too, who, and we kind of I think of it like a bucket. There's times that the bucket just, you have to almost poke your own hole so that whatever's coming in just goes right out again, and whatever. But there are times when empathy, it's just those people are depleting, and there are, empathy is just, because I've gone through the program as well, and I was definitely guilty of doing multiple things on that list of not to do, thinking that I was being an empathetic person. So by learning what empathy is not and what it is, has allowed me to put in those boundaries so that I can show up, but not leave depleted like I was previously.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the trends that I'm seeing as an assessor, because empathy is something that we can measure. So it's one of 8 emotional intelligence competencies that we measure in the program and that we work with. One of the trends that I'm seeing continuously is the people that had the capacity for empathy that learned to shut it off in order to function. So because it wasn't necessarily healthy and they were feeling that weight and it was feeling overwhelming and they didn't know what to do with all of those emotions, they turned it off. And so we can learn, like you said, Joanne, it is something that we can learn, we can develop, and we can master it. This is not like, oh, this is part of my personality, I either have it or don't have it. That's not at all what it is. It's a competency that can be developed. And if you have the competency, it can be healthier and working more effectively. So I feel really, really strongly about empathy, and like both of you, for me, I had moments where I had it on full blast or I shut it off completely just so I could function. And neither of those were really, really working in my favor. You shut it off, you shut the door to that two-way communication. All of a sudden it's one directional. And you're not getting the data, the emotional data that you need to lead effectively. If people are making their decisions, their choices, and they're behaving based on their feeling and their emotion, if you don't know the emotion, you don't know why they're behaving. And if that behavior is resistance to change, and you want to break through that resistance and you want to move people forward, it's kind of important to know what's underneath the surface. And I know for me as a leader, when I don't have the information flowing back to me, that's when I panic. That's when I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. I don't know. Now I can't take others in consideration as I'm choosing my behaviors and I'm making these choices because I don't have the intel. And leadership is really a people business. We're there to lead people. We manage things, we lead people. So empathy, it's a superpower. And there is a better way.
There is.
There is. It's been an honor working with you, Joanne. So pleased to have the opportunity, and I hope to continue working with you. You've done incredible things. And if you were to highlight a couple of things, maybe 3 things that you've gotten out of the work that we've done together, that shift that you went through. So now I'm asking about impact, results.
Impact.
What would you highlight?
The 3 things is that, first thing is that I know I have a super team now. We work well together. I'm in tuned with my feelings, so that helps me to be a better leader. And I'm just an overall better person as a mother, as a sister, as a grandmother. That's more than 3, I think.
So now as a coach, I'm going to challenge better.
Mhm.
Welcome back to my classroom. When you say a better person, what is better?
What is better? For me, what I mean by that is that in going through the executive edge and learning to be an empathetic person, I have been able to be a role model for my children, my grandchildren, my members, and my team. So kind of explain what better means. I know I was already there, just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I asked because sometimes we put like a word like that and it is a blanket word. So I wanted to know what better looked like in Joanne's world.
Mhm.
Perfect. And for anyone watching who's been kind of sitting on the fence where you were once upon a time and trying to figure out if this was something for them, what would you tell them?
I would say just do it. Sometimes our fear of the unknown will keep us from doing something. And if you want to learn some new and innovative skills in order to help you to be a better leader, the Executive Edge program is it.
Yeah. And how is it different from the typical program? Because that's a lot of the feedback that I get. Usually by week 3, like you were highlighting, that participants are like, this is not like anything I've ever had.
No, because
that difference.
yeah, see, there's a lot of people out there that say, I'm a coach, I will help you, I will give you the tools, I'll help you to reach this level. But not everybody knows how to coach. As a coach, you're not there to tell me what to do and how to do it. You help me discover the tools within me or around me in order to bring myself to be the better leader. And that's what you do. You showed your own side of being a leader and a coach and how empathetic you are. And that's being an authentic leader. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I really love the way that you describe that as like an internal, and it is a very internal process, even though we are 6 people in a cohort. So there is small cohorts, there is a one-on-one element, there is a group element, but even in the group element, everyone is going through their own journey and their own process of discovery.
And we learn together.
Active, it's a lot of participation, so it's not your typical sit there and take in the information. Your participation is part of the content, your discovery, that is part of the process of learning. And so I've heard things like, I was thinking about this morning, Kelsey, and like some of the things that we've heard from participants, things like, this is like an anti-inflammatory. I'm a lot less reactive. So refreshing. I've never been in a class where I haven't just learned, but I've gotten my breakthroughs. I've been able to apply it to myself, not just learn a concept. That's examples of the feedback that I get, and that makes my heart sing. So in closing today's session, what would you like to share? And I'm throwing this up to everyone here, Joanne, Kelsey-Ann. One last message to the viewers, the people listening, either about change, about empathy, communication.
I'm just going to say not to be afraid of change. We learn by our mistakes. That's the only way we can move forward.
And I guess I just wanted to give, I guess, more props to Joanne because, she's continuing to lead through change. So this is, an ongoing process. So she's still applying, these tools. She's still leading through big changes. And, I look forward to seeing and feeling those ripples of, what's on the other side. So I know Melissa and this program has also allowed me to become more comfortable that when there is change happening, there's going to be emotions from yourself and from others, but it's given me the tools to help manage my own and others as we're going through those waters together. So thank you.
If I can add one little thing, I love, Kelsey-Ann, how you highlighted the fact that Joanne is still going through change. And this is one piece that Joanne learned. She learned about the change map. And she learned that change was cyclical. I'm like going the opposite way to. So it is cyclical here. And so she's leading people step by step by step by step through the steps of change, right? Through, this piece and then this and then this, then this. It's not a one, like, boom, change has happened, we're all done now. And she knows the internal, the emotions that are going to come up. So she knows the emotions that will contribute to resistance. So she's not hoping for the best. She knows what's going to come up. She knows how she's going to navigate these emotions. She also knows the emotions that help move the wheel forward and how to transition from the emotions that causes the resistance to the emotions that move everything forward. And empathy is what helps her figure all of this out. Just to show you how the practice, how empathy and leading through change really goes hand in hand. I want to say a big thank you for Joanne for taking the time out today to come and speak with us, to share your beautiful message. It's always a pleasure. And I'm in awe of how vulnerable you're willing to be.
Thank you for having me and for helping me, guiding me through these changes, I guess.
You're the one that did the work.
Well worth it.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Leave some message, some comments to Joanne. Anything that you heard today that resonated with you, let us know. And give kudos to Joanne, who took, brave action today to come on live, not knowing who would be listening and sharing her story. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful Thursday.
Bye.